Yeah. Uh, let's see what responses await us today from the Ducks. Morning, boys. Good morning. Oh, well, they seem to be getting flightier and flightier. I think I'm definitely giving off different energy with this holding this camera. I also bring a bag with me now as well to put the bird food in rather than carrying it with me. Maybe the whole thing just feels a little different to them. I looked into to getting the meta glasses, make this a bit more natural, get it back to what it was. But but apparently you can't stream on them. You can't even stream on Facebook with them anymore. I mean, I don't know how they expect that technology to take off if you can't live stream on Facebook and YouTube. I mean, maybe they run into some hurdles with regards privacy and pushback or something. I don't know, but this should be on top of that. If you can wear a body cam, why can't you wear glasses cam? And I understand maybe having a little LED to show that the device is recording. You know, Ah, I mean, we're all being recorded all the time, or a lot of the time. How do you know official sources have any better intentions than any other person out there? It's individual to individual. Ah, the rats are starting early. Put some down there for them. There you go, sweetie pie. All right, let's see if we can coax some of these ducks in. Yeah, I think I mentioned before. I never really liked these goals before, but I'm actually starting to be really fond of them. It's so strange. Uh-huh. The thing I like most is like how responsive they are. Like you'll throw something and they'll grab it, and quite often they'll try and grab it out of the air as well, which is a lot of fun. Come on, boys. Are you going to eat this morning or what? This is our agreement, right? I bring the food, you eat it, you hang out with me whilst I give you food. Ah, you're my friends that I rent for an hour each morning. Maybe cost me a few pounds in bird food. But yeah, something's changed. Maybe my energy's changed dramatically making these videos rather than just sitting here by myself. Although there is a ton of seed on the decking already. So was that from me yesterday? Maybe I don't know. Yeah, they're not bothered at all. They're leaving already. Damn. What am I gonna do each morning if oh there's a rat? Do you want some? What am I gonna do if they no longer want my food? I know the girl will take some. Here, mister. At least when you throw it, you trigger a response in them that they almost kind of have to peck at it. You get a bit of a sore arm from throwing it individually each time. You know, one thing I don't understand about the comments on these videos, you get so many people coming in just saying hi, hi, hi. Like, what is it? Do you just you want your name mentioned, like hi, then your name, which is the hardest to pronounce thing ever, and then you leave? Like, what is that about? If somebody can explain that to me, because I'm kind of thinking like I should say hi to people, and maybe more people will watch. But I also can't be bothered as well. Like, if you've got a question or a comment, then feel free to fire away. I'll see it and I'll answer it. But I think this high business is, I think it's silly. You know, the channel is called sort of River Reset, and it's about kind of going deeper in yourself. And to be fair, my life is probably trying to talk to fewer people on a shallow basis. I'm not even necessarily talking to more people on a deeper basis, but just being a bit more careful in the things that we say to one another. I think depth is overrated as well. Like getting deep with somebody, especially when you first meet them. And that's a big red flag to me. I used to love doing it, so I was probably a huge red flag. But I think getting deep with people you've just met is not the right thing to do. Take your time with people. Build slowly. I kind of like to see somebody a few times before I say hi. You maybe pass each other in the street, or and you get a gauge, you get a feel for each other. If you don't see too many red flags, you know, maybe next time you make eye contact, maybe the time you smile, maybe you say hi, maybe you ask how your day is, maybe you have a brief conversation, maybe it develops. I don't know, man. There's so many people out there who just aren't right. That getting into anything quickly with somebody you don't know is a big problem. Even then, you can have problems with people you've known for years because you don't really know them. So many people are sporting masks, hiding things, traumas, insecurities. I was talking to, I don't want to say too much, but I was talking to somebody yesterday, and sometimes I chat and try and help, and they kind of made it clear that they wanted a little more help, shall we say? But I'm not down for that. I'll help people, but I think the only way you can actually help people is to kind of show them the doors that you've found, and pardon the sort of matrix. Um, what's the terminology, verbology? I don't know, phraseology. But you can only show people the door. You can't walk through it for them. If that came from a marriage, so much. But a lot of people, the help they want from you is they want you to come down into their problems with them. They want company in their problems, or maybe ideally, they want you to lift them out of their problems. But that comes at a huge cost. That comes with significant loss of time, emotional damage, anxiety, pressure. I think the best thing you can do is just live your own life as best you can. And sometimes I talk to people and I'll listen. And I feel so sorry for people sometimes. Like some people are just living in the depths of despair. But you can't lift people out of that. That like we all have to do that for ourselves. Nobody can do it for you because nobody can go inside your brain and rewire it for you. Nobody can force you to face your trauma. I think that that has to be done alone. You have to face that stuff alone. Now, I don't know. I've never really had a healthy enough and reciprocal relationship to say that that's not possible within a relationship. And I'm sure it probably is. I mean, it almost certainly is. But even then, such a person can still not face your fears for you. They can still not do the internal work that you have to do. So, can we really, can you help another person? I mean, the best way is to help yourself first. I don't know. It's something I'm personally wrestling with. I've pulled away from anybody who I think hasn't done a sufficient level of work on themselves or isn't interested in doing work on themselves. I just don't deal with people like that anymore. They need a bit more time in the oven. They need a bit more thinking time, trauma time, life experience. You know, I get nothing from them, and I can give them nothing. Those people aren't for me anymore. But what I sometimes wrestle with is the people who they're trying, you know, and you know, maybe they can help you, or maybe you can help them, and you've realized some things, and but you have to realize things at a deep level to be able to explain them simply to somebody else, and see, I really listen and see what it is they're missing, which part of the equation are they missing, and what can you tell them that'll help them figure that out. I think you've got to have pretty strong boundaries as well, because, like I said, with a person yesterday who I've kind of been helping a little bit, and I know it has helped her, but yesterday she wanted more than what I was willing to give. And I was gentle about it, and I kind of said, like, probably not. I should have just straight up said no. And she got a bit mad. Not too mad, but mad enough. But I'm not the answer for her. You know, I may be a better situation than what she presently has, but I'm not the answer for her. And I can't give her, I won't. give her what she wants from me. So that's just not going to go well for anybody. I'm also not prepared to just take from her, but somebody will. I think we waste a lot of time asking other people for help. I think we often move from situation, job, relationship. We move from one to another, thinking that a slightly different or a slightly improved situation is going to fix everything. I mean, I don't think it is. I mean, yes, it can certainly help just kind of leveling up, but I think ultimately the works it's all internal. I mean, does your situation matter? Your circumstances, your wealth, your connections. Well, apparently so, like on a sort of Maslow hierarchy of needs kind of thing. But sort of true contentedness, true peace. I mean, I guess we all find that where we find it. Some of us need an easier life. Some of it can find it in a storm. I don't know. I'm waffling. I don't know the answers to a lot of things. I know some answers. How many do we need? How many answers do we need? Ah, do you think these ducks think about shit like this? Mm. Do they ever ask themselves, am I happy? I don't think they do. They just are. They're just living. We look down on animals sometimes. In some ways, some of us do. But do they have higher states of consciousness than us? If not intelligence and complexity, have they reached greater levels of spiritual development? Yeah, maybe they have. Maybe we are capable of higher levels of spiritual awareness. consciousness. But because of our intelligence and complexity, it's so much more difficult. There's so many more traps. There's so many more side quests for us as humans. Like, how many side quests do they get? Sometimes I see them going off down the river by themselves. One of them will go up and have a little journey by himself. Maybe he decides to fly to another river and find a different flock, if that's the term for ducks. Maybe he decides to just live alone. I doubt it. I've seen them go off by themselves, but they always seem to come back. I've seen a duck sort of sail off down the river by himself for long periods of time. What's he doing? You know? Yeah, who knows? I I think I think these guys are just in a much higher state of peace than we are. And I think mostly because they don't think as much as we do. Over the last few years, and especially the last year or so, I've learned to just turn off my brain. I mean, I remember when, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago. Yeah, maybe 30 years ago when I started to learn meditation. And you quite often learn those in like Buddhist centers and stuff. Buddhists are always wanting to, I mean, meditation's a fantastic thing, but it's so impractical for younger people and so impractical for modern society. There's so much competing against it. And don't you like have to give up all your wealth and shit to the Buddhist church or something? And so there's something there, isn't there? Like if it's simply a case that like material wealth is, they kind of trying to tell you it's not worth having, then why don't you have a bonfire once a month where everybody just burns their money? Look, I could be totally wrong on this, but I kind of isn't that something that happens where you hand your wealth over? I don't know, correct. I'm not saying probably, I could be talking complete nonsense there, but I kind of think that's what's happening. But anyway, that's traditionally where a lot of people will learn meditation, good meditation, in these Buddhist centers. And I remember, being taught some of the early concepts, such as, I don't know if they said this, but it was something I kind of realized. You're not your thoughts, and you're really not your thoughts. I mentioned this a couple of times, but you think you are because they're so prevalent. And you think without your thoughts, what are you? That constant monologue or, multiple voices going through your head, talking, thinking about different things, connecting different things. I mean, if you're anything like I used to be, I could think, the far end of a far, I could think to any depth on anything. I mean, how good that was, I have no idea, but I could certainly complicate the simplest of subjects. And you associate yourself with those thoughts and you think that you are those thoughts, but you're really not. And the more you can quieten your mind, the more you begin to realize that there's something else behind the thoughts. You are something else. And these birds are something else. And I think we're all the same. but that state, you see it a lot in horses. Maybe you see it in other, yeah, like cows and stuff. And I think cows are just probably really dumb, so they don't have a lot of thoughts. But I don't think horses are. And they just have this blank, vacant expression as if they're somewhere else. And you can go somewhere else without going somewhere else, physically and mentally. Or if you just quiet that noise, you just enter into a completely different state. Life just completely changes. Oh, note to self: bring bigger cigars. I like a bigger cigar in the morning. Ah, start the day with a bigger cigar. Um, yeah, the more you just quieten things down, and that's weird, I think, for a lot of people, because if you just quiet your mind down and you don't think about anything, people are thinking like, well, what the hell are you? What the hell do you think about? Nothing, or nothing surface level. Maybe you let the subconscious take over for a while. Maybe you just give your brain a break so that when it wants to think about something, it has the capacity to do so. You haven't exhausted it and used up all of your neurotransmitters, and maybe you don't burn through all of your s- serotonin and dopamine and GABA too early in the day, and you get to the end of the day with a little bit left, and you sleep well and you make some more. That's the thing's interesting about the ducks. Like if I throw my cigar butt into the water, and it's just tobacco, it's just leaves, it's just tobacco leaves. They're pretty decent cigars. They don't go for it. They instinctively know that it's just leaves. Occasionally, the gulls will pick them up. They're greedy. They'll pick it up and then they'll quickly drop it. But more if they've seen it from a distance. But once you learn to, I don't know what happens, but once you learn to quiet your mind, just something different begins to happen. You begin to sit in the parasympathetic nervous system, and this this is a this is a strange idea for a lot of people. I don't know if anybody's ever come across um, the German. What's the term? Is he a theosophist or something like that? But I remember reading a lot of his stuff when I was younger, and he talked about something called organ thinking, and this is where you don't just think with your brain; you think with your whole body. And I wondered for a long time what that would be. Do you start to hear solid voices? Not like auditory hallucinations, but do you start to have a conversation with your body? But I don't think that's what it is. And I mean, if you're looking for the sort of scientific side of things, your heart and your gut is packed with neurons. The things in your brain, neural cells, and these things are capable of. I don't know if it's the same, but they're kind of capable of thought. So you get a lot of gut instinct. You know, you feel a lot of things in your gut. You feel a lot of things in your heart. And if your brain is constantly running the show, these things never get a chance to join the conversation. You also have much more areas of your brain that you can access than just the, I don't know. Is it the frontal cortex? Is that where the ego resides? But wherever that resides, wherever that incessant thinking machine lives, I don't think that's the whole brain. You've got much deeper parts of the brain. And I think when you sleep and dream, that is the communication between the two, your ego and your subconscious. Something that happens a lot for me now is I looked this up because I wasn't sure what it was. And I get a lot of hip, hypnagogic hallucinations. And I get these in when I'm doing yoga. I'll, I get them other times as well. I'll get them if I'm about to fall asleep and stuff. And I'll catch myself and I'll sit in that state just between sleep and wake and being awake. And you get these really profound visualizations. You see all kinds of scenes and all kinds of things, and they're more real. They're more vibrant. They're more detailed. Or they're more detailed. They're sharper. There may not be as much content in. Like you're looking at the leaves across the road. Like I can see. Well, my eyes aren't great, but you can see like individual leaves. I don't know if it's as many objects, but it's certainly brighter and sharper. And I think that's the way the subconscious communicates with us through imagery rather than language. Language is something we learn. We learn specific words and stuff. I wonder if we were all just born on an island and nobody knew how to talk any particular language. I wonder what kind of grunts and things we would invent or naturally have. I wonder if we have a natural language because I think ducks do. Like these guys definitely do. You know, they all say the same things. They all have the same meanings and stuff for the things they talk about. Now, the ducks down south or in other countries, do they all have the same words? I mean, apparently they do. Well, apparently some birds do, according to research. So unless they're all learning this somewhere, or unless they've all learned it over thousands of years and it's been passed on, I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think that is the way that the subconscious talks to us. So it talks to us in a way that I wasn't expecting. And to get that, you have to be very you have to be very quiet. You have to slow down. You have to slow your mind and your body down. And then you hear that, you see that, you feel that. Now I have no idea a lot of the time what these images and things are. They're very beautiful. I think they're like inspiration or something. I think they're telling me what I want, like deeply what I desire as a human being. I think they're showing me different possibilities. So that's the subconscious. In terms of the heart and the gut, and maybe other parts of the body, I do a lot of sort of deep work in yoga now. I've been doing it for about 30 years. And probably only the last year has it really developed. It probably took me about 29 years of bad yoga to begin to go deeper. And you can you can go like deeper in your stretches and things than you ever thought possible. And we have a like a is it myelin? We have like myelin sheets around our muscles, which are almost like in a fluid state, but they hold and constrict muscles. They tighten us up. They stop us from doing the splits. But if you sit in different poses, pigeon poses and, different side bends and stuff like that, and you feel a deep, it's not a deep pain, it's a deep struggle. Your body's like, it's fighting with all it's got. Don't go any further. We can't go any further. But if you learn to sit with that, you learn you can go further. And sometimes you can go a lot further and a lot faster than you think. And if you sit in that uncomfortableness, and this is a parallel for, facing your own traumas and demons and things. If you can sit with that uncomfortableness, then eventually your body it'll kind of relax and it'll kind of give up the fight and you can go further. And I remember like I could never do I'm very flexible in some ways, and in other ways not. And I think that's a story for everybody. Like some people have really tight hips, some people have very tight hamstrings, and I could never do a wide-legged forward fold. I couldn't even get past vertical. But I don't know how. But over the space of that was 30 years consistent. I could just never go down. But over the last few months, all of a sudden I'm at 45, 60 degrees maybe, I'm not flat. And I don't know what happened. I felt the shift. I'd certainly been working hard on other poses and stuff, but I felt the shift and I just knew I could now go further. And I can now just, on my side bends and things, just almost get flat to the floor. And this is communication. This is me letting my body know that it's okay to relax now. And it's my body letting me know that it's okay to relax now. So yeah, the thought of organ thinking, and perhaps a step further, if Rudolf Steiner went that far, bodily thinking. So you're thinking and using your entire body rather than just, a small part of your brain. I mean, sports people, high level sports people must do that. They must use a large part of their body. They must use parts of their bodies and methods that, you know, we we have no idea about. And they must go to depths that they could probably never explain to the average person. Anyway, I think the point is that quietening your mind for me has been one of the greatest things I've ever done. It's had the greatest impact upon my life. And I think it was a conscious decision for me. I just, one day, I had enough and I was just done. And that was it. And I just made the decision. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to leave the house or anything. And I think various people in my life were thinking I was a bit depressed or something. And I told some people, I said, no, I'm doing something. I'm doing something very specific. And I tried to explain that. But I think they just weren't at a stage where they could understand or believe that. And, you know, suddenly, very quickly, my life began to transform to where I wanted it to be. And the dream I had about um, 5 or 6 years ago has come into fruition. And I've been working towards it. I've been putting different pieces together, but in a very misshapen fashion, a very unorganized fashion, putting some pieces in here, but taking wrong steps there. But now, with a quiet mind, almost everything I do is geared towards that. that dream and vision of what I wanted my life to be. Now, as it's coming to fruition, I'm now at a point where like I don't really know what to do with that. So I'm just gonna sit with it. And I haven't sort of realized every part of that dream. So I guess I've just got to let those other parts come into play and uh, and see what that means to me. See if that is actually what I want, or see if it needs some fine tuning, or who knows, even a different direction. But it's interesting how quickly your life can change when you let go. Sounds a bit cliched, but when you stop fighting yourself, when you start to listen to yourself, we listen to so many people. We listen to so many people who convince us that they have the answers, that this is the way things should be. But if you think about it, you're an individual and you have one life, as far as we know, you know. But let's say we have one life. Why would you live that for somebody else or for other groups of people? And isn't that perhaps the madness that's kind of overtaking the world right now? That, we're moving uh, politically left, if that's the case, and where we're supposed to put the needs of the collective before our own. But doesn't that just mean that nobody gets their needs met? Aren't we aren't we all just so much more likely to meet our own needs? And we all have to be aware of one another and at the least try not to hurt one another. If we can help, great. But everybody's responsible for their own happiness. And I think that's how it's got to be. I think anybody who tells you that they can be responsible for your happiness is, at the best, a little bit disillusioned. But I think probably much worse than that. So I think that's my thoughts on that this morning.